What's up, YouTube? This is Sindragonlord here, bringing you an amazing battle that I had with my good friend from the Pokemon Battling Club. It is a Weather War game, and to be honest, I have no words I can possibly describe this right now. So please, let's just get on with this battle. I cannot wait to narrate this. Alright, so the leads for this battle, he starts off with Shiftry, and I start off with Politoed. Now, he was pretty smart in not starting off with his Weather War guy, I guess. But I got my rain up, so I go into Tornadus and I go straight for the Tonks. I know the Toxic's coming; it's obvious, and I was right. So he withdraws, knowing that he really can't do much to me now. So he brings in his weather guy, Ninetales. So now it's sunny and stuff, and I go for the Hurricane. I managed to hit it. I got very lucky there. Not only did I hit it, I managed to get the Confusion hacks. After that, I'm like, you know what? You've done your job right now. I'm gonna switch back into Frogger, get back up the rain. But I guess and then he pulls a double switch on me and goes into Scizor. So I call I call Politoed back, and I go into my Dragonite. He goes for the U-turn, basically does nothing, um, and he goes into a Starmie, and I'm like, okay, well, I can see an Ice Beam coming from a mile away, so I'm gonna go into my Jirachi to take the Ice Beam, and he takes it relatively well considering it's a Life Orb, and so I get my lefty's recovery, and he withdraws Starmie and goes back into Chansey. Now, I go for the Thunder, and it does nothing, as anyone would expect. It does nothing. So I call back, and I go into my Lapras. And this Lapras, I don't know why people don't use Lapras more often in rain teams, but, you know, that's just personal preference, I guess. But he goes back into Ninetales, and I go for the Toxic. Because I need to get, I need to hinder his weather user. But he gets a Wish, and gets back up to full. I'm like, shit. But at least now he's Toxic, so he's running on a time clock right now. So, but I get back my rain, and he goes for the Energy Ball, predicting my switch. I'm like, oh, well, that was a good play on his part, but it doesn't even do half, so I'm like, go Politoed. He's just full of TM87 right now. So, but he takes out Ninetales, goes back out into Chansey. And I go for the Scald, and I'm like, I really hope this doesn't burn, because I'm going to need to poison that thing later. But luckily for me, I don't get the burn. Now I go straight for the Toxic. I'm like, okay, good. But then he pulls a Toxic on me, and I'm like, oh well, now me and him are kind of in the same boat here. Um, we both have Wish Passers, and both of our weather uses are poisoned, and so this is going to be a very long match. So I go into Tentacruel, and he goes for the Wish, and at this point I'm just trying to, I'm trying to set up my Toxic Spikes. So that's what I do. I set up my first layer of Toxic Spikes, and his wish came true, but it didn't really matter because he was at full anyway. So I go back into Jirachi to take the T-Bolt, and he takes it rather nicely. And I don't know why, but I went for a Wish, but it wouldn't have mattered because he goes for the Hydro Pump, manages to hit, and he goes straight for the KO. I'm like, well, shit, there goes my passer. Now I'm kind of in a disadvantage. So now at this point, I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna wear this Starmie down of his resources. So I'm gonna substall him for a little bit, wait for him to kind of get low on Life Orb recoil, and so that's kind of what I'm going to do right now for the next, several turns. So I'm just going to kind of go into how impressed I am with this weather team that I was going against, because not only was it a weather team that has sun support, but it was also very anti-minish against other weather teams. I mean, he's got Starmie for rain teams like mine. He's got freaking Scizor for rain teams, and it's just like, wow. I mean, this was a really well constructed weather team. I haven't really seen a whole lot of those. Normally, when people make a weather team, it's just all for their weather. But if they lose the weather war, they're screwed, and that's kind of why I like this set a lot. Um, but anyway, now I'm too weak to make a substitute. He goes for the Ice Beam, and down goes Disaster. I'm like, okay, well, Disaster did his job. Starmie's in a nice range for Lapras to come in. And Lapras is bulky as shit. He goes for the Life Orb Thunderbolt. It only does 200 damage. Now, granted, I put this in like 240 HP, like 130 defense, or some other random variation, but I have it pretty evenly spread out as far as the EV spread for HP, defense, and special defense. And so right here I go for the rest. And due to hydration and it's raining, it wakes me up. So now I'm at a full HP Lapras, and his Starmie is gone, so that's one threat out of the way. But believe me, guys, the trouble is only just beginning. So he goes for the Energy Ball, I'm guessing predicting me to go back into my Politoed, but no, I'm going to go straight into my Dragonite to take the Energy Ball. And so he's just racking up Toxic, but he goes for the Will-O-Wisp. I'm like, okay, well, thankfully this isn't much of an attacking set. This is more or less a stall set. I mean, the fact that I can't really attack him is kind of sucks, but this is more or less a sub roost set. Um, so he goes back into Chansey, and I go for the roost, get myself back up to full, but the burn kind of brings me down to, um, back down to less than full. So I go for the D dance, just to I'm still in the process of testing this team, so I was just kind of trying to see how much, um, a +2 burn D Knight would do. I don't think it'll do very much, but I'm just kind of testing it out. And so he gets his wish, and he gets it back up to full. And it's at this point that I believe I go for the Dragon Claw, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I go for the Dragon Claw here, just to kind of test out how much it'll do. And it does not that much. Does a lot more than I thought it would, though. So, yeah. So I get my lefty's recovery and burn, and it's just kind of, yeah. And so I go back into Tentacruel, and now that his Rapid Spinner's gone, I can safely set up my Toxic Spikes no issues. Since the sun's still up, so I don't get my Rain Dish recovery. But he goes back into Shift Tree, and I'm like, oh, okay, I don't know what kind of Shift Tree this is, but I'm going to kind of... And it turns out he's a Swords Dancer. I'm like, oh, shit, okay, just set up my Toxic Spikes, I'm going to get the fuck out of there. But I don't do that yet, because I'm going to kind of feel what he's going to go for. I go for the Skull, trying to burn him to kind of render this thing useless, but I get no such luck. I don't get the burn. So I go for the Protect, because I know at this point he's going to attack. He's at +6 now, if I'm not mistaken. But he goes for the Nature Power, which turns out to be Earthquake. I'm okay, well, I'm going to get the fuck out of here now. So I go back into my Dragonite, which is the best thing that can counter this Shift Tree at this point. And he goes for the Seed Bomb, and it does a good chunk considering that I resist it ×4. But not enough for me to really be worried. He goes for the Sucker Punch, really don't know why. I think I was going to go for the Roost to get back up to a reasonable amount of HP. So yeah, at this point, it's more stalling. It's more or less him going for Seed Bomb and me just kind of... Oh, no, he was only at +4. Now he's at +6. Alright, so the next couple turns are just kind of him Seed Bombing me and me roosting and kind of just me stalling out Life Orb, just like I did with Tornadus and Starmie. So this is more or less going to be kind of a repeat of that. Anyway... And at this point, I'm just kind of hoping and praying that, he doesn't get a crit, because a crit would just ruin my day. A crit would be just the biggest middle finger to my strategy right now. So I go for the Roost, once more, like I said. And, the Shift Tree is just being a huge pain in my ass. So I'm really just, hanging on by the skin of my teeth right now. Just praying and hoping that I can at least... If Dragonite's going down, I'm really hoping that Shift Tree will go down with me. Because if D-Knight dies before Shift Tree does, I'm in a shit ton of trouble. Because I really don't have a whole lot more that can counter this Shift Tree. So now he's down to about half, and I'm like, okay, I'm doing okay. It's doing about the same amount. So just so long as there's no crit, hacks involved, well, I'll be just fine. But there's a problem. There's at one point where Seed Bomb does a lot more than it did the last few turns, so I get down to a lot less than I was before. But that's I'm getting ahead of myself right now. Let's let the animation catch up here. So it goes for Seed Bomb, and it brings me down to 44, which is about where it's been getting to me in the last few turns. So I roost again, getting myself up to 237, but and then lefties will get me up to 261, and the burn will get me down to 213. So, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, right here. This is where things start to turn, because that did a lot more than it was doing before. So I'm not going to get nearly as much HP back. Lefties will get me up to like 230, no, 240, my bad, my mistake. And burn will get me down to below 200. So the Seed Bomb's going to get me down to 9 HP. So I know I cannot possibly live another Seed Bomb, but I'm to the point now to where I know that another attack from him will bring him down as well. So I'm thanking the heavens right now. The gods have smiled upon me today. Arceus gives me the thumbs up today. But Dragonite's going to go down, and so will the Shift Tree. So okay, I'm thinking, okay, Starmie and Shift Tree are down, but now I got Scizor to worry about. I'm like, God, it's just never-ending threats. And now that my Rain's back up, I can't really use any fire moves to really hurt this thing. So it's just like, God, What's it gonna take? I'm using up all my resources on the other threats. But he goes back into Ninetales to get the sun up. That way I don't get rain dish recovery. But that's fine because I know this Ninetales really doesn't have anything that can really hurt me. He goes for the Fire Blast, but I protected myself, so Tentacruel's just kind of sitting there doing his happy dance. And then I switch back out. I go into Frogger, or my Politoed, and get the rain back up. He goes for another Fire Blast. That's not gonna do jack diddly shit, even with Life Orb. Um, I get my Lefty's recovery, and he dies due to poison. So I'm thinking, yes, I won the Weather War. I'm in good hands right now. But then I forgot the Scizor. I'm like, well, shit. All right, fine. I'll find a way to deal with this one way or another. So he goes for the super power, and that's not going to do shit to Tentacruel. Tentacruel is just kind of like terp derp, and he's just kind of floating there, just gaining all of his HP back that he lost from super power. So he knows he's not going to be able to do anything to me at this point. So he goes back into Chansey. But I got 2 layers of toxic spikes down, so this Chansey is really hindered. Well, I mean, kind of, not really. I mean, he can obviously switch out, get the natural cure, and it's done. But every time he switches back into Chansey, it's going to be badly poisoned. So it's more or less not a good situation for him. Um, I just go for the Rapid Spin just to kind of see what it does. I need to save my Scalds for the Scizor, so I go for Rapid Spin just because, and it does shit, as obviously it does shit. But the Toxic's racking up, and he knows it, so I go for Scald just to get more residual damage off. Goes for another Wish. I'm thinking, okay, I need to play this out carefully. I'm going to run out of Scalds here pretty quick. I need to save those for the Scizor. Hopefully get the burn because it's impervious to my Toxic Spikes. And if for whatever reason Tentacruel fails and he dies, I'm going to be in some load of shit because all I got left is Politoed and Lapras. So I go for the Scald, and he goes for the Pursuit. I'm like, okay, that's probably the best move he's got against me right now. I would assume that it'd be U-turn, Bullet Punch, and Superpower. So Pursuit's pretty much all he's got on me. And it's not doing a whole lot. This is clearly banded. Clearly it is. And it's doing a little bit, but not for me to be really worried. And he's gonna go into Chandelure here, guys. And I'm not the least bit intimidated at all by this Chandelure. I'm assuming that this hidden power is Ice just because of the fact that it wasn't very effective. But once again, it's another Life Orb. And I go for the Scald, and Chandelure's not going to take a Scald. Not in the rain. No, it's just going down. So I get my Rain Dish recovery, my Black Sludge recovery, and guys, he's going to call it quits there because he knows I have it won. And that will be the game, guys. Thank you for watching. Subscribe. It was a hell of a match. Be sure to subscribe to his channel, the